So Oregon has 2 5-stars committed, both on the offensive side of the football, both at wide receiver, in Dakorien Moore and Dallas Wilson, number 1 receiver in Texas, number 1 receiver in the state of Florida. They're both going to play college football at Oregon as of now. Of course, Dallas Wilson is getting a pretty sizable amount of recruitment from other schools, but so far I've not seen or heard anything to indicate he's heading elsewhere. But Dan Lanning, if he's going to get a number 1 class or push to have the number 1 class in the country, probably going to need multiple more 5-stars, and Oregon is trending, according to On3 at least, in the direction of several of these guys. So let's start with DJ Pickett, because this is seeming like it is coming down. You know, someone who's right in your backyard, Brian. This seems like it is coming down to Oregon and our old friend Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes.
It's ironic because at the early juncture of this, I thought he was going to go to LSU for whatever reason, and maybe it's a smokescreen. There has been very little to no LSU buzz with DJ for quite a while. And he knows the DB coach there extremely well. He was at UF last year, and he's been recruiting DJ for a long time. So if it ends up being Miami or Oregon, I mean, I would lean Miami just because he's got proximity and his cousin just signed with there. But like, again, we always say with Oregon, you just don't know. And he liked it a lot on the visits, and they've been in it throughout. He's tweeted a lot of stuff about Oregon. So I've heard different takes on it. I haven't talked to him recently. I might go down to his commitment ceremony, but it's an interesting deal, man. I would not want to touch this one with the prediction, putting money on it. I can say that.
Brian's phone is literally ringing off the hook with so much insight and juice on the recruiting trail. It's why we bring it. It's why we bring him on the show, because everybody wants to get his attention, and we're of course happy to have it here. But for Pickett, you know, is this a tough sell for him to go from Florida all the way to Oregon? And to your knowledge, is Dallas Wilson involved at all in trying to get him to go up to Oregon? Does it ease the mind of recruits at all when they see someone from their state also going to a school that is so far from home?
Well, they're both from the Tampa area. They know each other. I mean, I'm sure he's trying to get him to go. And to that point, Zaire Addison's a Tampa kid too. He's committed to Oregon. They're all going to try to get him to go because DJ's been the chosen one. Like everybody knew for a long time, he was the guy in the air. Like that was not really in debate. But if you want to win, you want to get as many good players as you can. So that's yes. I haven't asked Dallas or anything like that, but common sense will tell you the answer there. They all know each other. As far as him leaving, DJ's a different kid. He's real quiet. He doesn't really care what's going on. He just competes, doesn't say much. He just goes out and dominates and walks off the field. It doesn't matter where he's at. I don't think distance would bother him as much as most kids from Florida. He's more mature, smarter than most. He just kind of cerebral about everything he does. I don't think that's going to play much of a factor.
DJ Pickett has set his commitment date for July 17th. That is a week from when this show is airing. So midweek, we'll know around this time next week, assuming he doesn't change or alter anything, which, as Brian knows very well, that can tend to happen with kids from time to time, and Brian loves it more than anything, I can just tell. But that's not the only 5-star defensive back that Oregon is pursuing here. Trey McNutt, one of the top safeties in the country, another guy that Oregon is after. What can you tell us about the latest on his recruitment?
Everything still is kind of like, is he really going to go to Oregon? Like, I did not see that coming.
On3 thinks so. They've logged a prediction for him.
I know. I mean, like you don't promote that for fun, especially when it's a kid that a lot of people thought were going somewhere else. Because you will be made fun of in the industry. Trust me on this, by the way. I'm as surprised as you, but I have not gotten like that phone call. I haven't got anybody to tell me that wasn't a legit option. And again, I'm surprised by it as much as anybody else, but I never pick Oregon for anybody because it's about impossible to project who they're going to get. But now I'm to the point where I'm just going to pick Oregon because it's easier.
Yeah, I don't think it's an accident that Oregon's going after the secondary or guys that can play safety with where the roster is at right now, because you have a bunch of corners in the room, not just now, but going forward. The safety room's a lot thinner. You know, you've got your 2 starters this year, but there is going to be someone with a freshman next to their name, whether it's a true or red shirt, that remains to be seen, that is a part of the rotation this year. But after this season, Kobe Savage is out of eligibility, and Tysheem Johnson is out of eligibility, and you're suddenly looking at, 2 new safeties. Yeah, you can always go to the transfer portal, but I think this is a position group that Dan Lanning and company want to load up on. And, whether or not they would go to the portal might depend on how many of these guys they get, because, 5 stars tend to have a greater chance of playing right away. Doesn't mean other guys can't. We see it all the time. But is McNutt that sort of player to you where he steps on campus and can go be a starting football player right away?
I don't know about starting, but I think he can be in the rotation. Like, starting at safety is more than the physical credibility that they come in with, because it's about calling defenses and knowing where to be. And if you're wrong, it's a touchdown. Coaches hate freshmen in the deep secondary as a general rule for a good reason. I understand. And McNutt can play. But even DJ Pickett, who might play safety, I have as much trust in him as anybody because I've known him for so long. I don't want him starting a free safety at Oregon. There's too much responsibility. So work him into the lineup, sure. I would still wager heavily that they try to get at least one transfer that can compete for the starting job, because you just don't want freshmen in that role. But he's talented. Like, physically, could he? Sure. It's the mental stuff with safety that's always rough.
Along the defensive back lines, but also kind of hybrid linebacker, Jonah Williams is another guy who it seems like Oregon's trending for, and he's another 5-star player. The last update I had kind of heard, and I think On3 was again the one that made me jot this down to talk to you about on today's show. They logged a prediction for him to go to Oregon, and I thought this was a Texas A&M recruit, or that he was going to be. But what's going on here? He's a safety linebacker hybrid, Jeff Bossa type player. But again, he's got all 5 of those stars next to his name, and that garners a lot of attention.
Baseball might be the problem there. A&M's coach just went to Texas. He wants to play both sports.
Oh, I forgot. That's right.
This is the one that guy was getting ready to coach like the national championship or whatever. And
he did coach in the national championship.
And he took the job for the other school.
They were in game 3 of the final of the College World Series. And Jim Schlossnagle, once mentioned on this show because Oregon played him in the Super Regionals, that he left and went to Texas, of all places.
That tells me that he just wanted to be at Texas, period.
Could be.
But that also impacts this kid, because he's not going somewhere unless he can play both. Now, I have no idea how good Oregon's program is going to be going moving forward.
Should be very good. They've been to back-to-back Super Regionals for the first time ever. Mark Wazakowski just got, I think he got a little bit of an extension. It might have been a performance bonus. I forget. But he's got, at the very least, it is not an afterthought. It's a program that has significantly elevated in the last couple of years. I mean, you go to back-to-back Super Regionals, that's, going to back-to-back Sweet 16s or Elite 8s. That's essentially what that is in the basketball terms. And that program has got a lot of young talent and should be very good again next year. They've added a couple pieces in the transfer portal. And he's also got the precedent of Bryce Betcher playing both football and baseball, and Betcher was a starting center fielder and a rotational linebacker for the Ducks this past year, and he might get drafted in the Major League Draft, which is next week.
I think all that right there plays into it. You got the proven commodity as the coach, extension. Obviously, football's good at Oregon. A&M's got a new coach. He's good, but he's still a new coach, and the baseball coach is leaving. There's just less uncertainty with Oregon. I'm guessing that's part of the reason for the pick. They're just using math here, but maybe he's literally told somebody and it's leaked out too. But I get it. Like, if you're dead set on playing baseball, and he's apparently very good, if Oregon A&M are recruiting him, they're kind of self-explanatory, then I get it. So, you know what? In today's era, man, kids go all over the country. This legitimacy with region and area is no longer legitimate. Kids go everywhere. So I would not be surprised.